The belief that ancient Kemet was colonized and ruled by indigenous Africans was a view commonly held by Greek travelers to Egypt thousands of years ago. According to John G. Jackson, author of Introduction to African Civilizations, he stated, "It may be of interest to the reader to know that the ancient Egyptians did not call themselves Egyptians. The name was invented by the Greeks. The first Greek visitors to Egypt in the 7th century BC were greatly impressed by the Temple of Ptah at Memphis. They regarded it as the grandest structure in the Nile Valley, and they afterward referred to this ancient land as He-ka-Ptah, the land of the Temple of Ptah. In the Greek language, He-ka-Ptah becomes Aegyptos, and under the Roman rule, the name was Latinized into Aegyptus, from which we get the name Egypt. The Greeks were also responsible for a multitude of etymological atrocities. They changed the name of Asar to Osiris, Aset to Isis, and Heru to Horus. This Nile Valley family was not only the prototype of the Holy Trinity, but Aset and Heru also represent the first images of the Madonna and Child. The Greeks worshipped Isis and Horus, and the Romans later knew them as the Black Madonna and Child. As the centuries passed, references to their black skin passed as they began to be portrayed as Caucasian. The Greeks also changed the names of the builders of the 3 main pyramids at Giza. They called Khufu Cheops. His son Khafre was called Chephren, and his son Menkaure was called Mycerinus. The early kings of Kemet never called themselves Pharaoh. That word was introduced into the language by foreigners during the New Kingdom almost 2,000 years after Narmer unified the 2 lands of ancient Kemet. Homer, the first Greek author of note, wrote in the Iliad that Zeus and all of the gods of Greece traveled to the Nile Valley to dine with the faultless men of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is also a word of Greek origin. It comes from the words ethos, which means burnt, and opes, which means face. Ethos and opes becomes Ethiopian, a descriptive adjective which literally means burnt face and describes the skin color of the people that the Greeks found in the Nile Valley. Herodotus, the Greek father of history, described the Egyptians as black skin with woolly hair. Herodotus also declared that almost all of the names of the gods came into Greece from Egypt. In the mid-1790s, a Frenchman named Count Constantine de Valny published a book entitled The Ruins of Empires, which chronicled his travels to Egypt between 1783 and 1785. Valny's book became an instant bestseller in France and was soon translated into English. Shortly thereafter, an American edition appeared for sale in the United States. But since Africans were still being enslaved in America at that time, the publishers decided to delete segments of the text that might be considered offensive to European Americans.